everybody, what's up? This is just a quick note to let you know that the episode you're listening to was recorded in the before times. So there's no reference to a global pandemic or everything being weird and terrible and time no longer existing. That's because at that time, things were still okay.
I concur.
So please enjoy Twins. Hi again, everybody. It's still Chrissy and Nathan.
So one more thing has happened. We were only in part one of the disaster scenario. So if you're wondering why we don't mention the protests, the racial injustices going on, or murder hornets, it's because, again, this was recorded before all that.
And we just, wanted to add this little tag on the front of this episode to let all our friends and fans know that we appreciate all of the people who are standing up against racial injustice and doing the real and dangerous work of changing our world for the better.
Mm-hmm. So right now, the world is a very serious place right now. So why don't we put that on pause and enjoy an incredibly silly podcast, the most excellent 80s movie podcast. Twins.
It's that sexy, growly Kathleen
Arnold
Turner
Schwarzenegger, Danny DeVito are twins.
Hello and welcome to the most excellent 80s movies podcast. It's the podcast where a filmmaker and a comedian rewatch the 80s movies we think we love or love to hate with these, our modern eyes, in order to see how they hold up. And this movie has it all. Secret islands full of genetic experiments, baby making milkshakes, Arnold Schwarzenegger in shorts, Danny DeVito with a tiny little ponytail, nuns getting knocked up, trunks full of top secret jet engines, and oodles and oodles and oodles of chain link. This is Twins, a movie selection from 1988.
In a secret lab, somewhere in the Western Hemisphere, the perfect human specimen has been born. He has the strength of 10 men and the wisdom of 20. He also has a twin brother.
I have a brother?
Oh my goodness, are you looking good?
Arnold Schwarzenegger.
One to be bad.
And Danny DeVito.
Way to go, Mom.
Are twins.
My name is Julius. I'm your twin brother.
Obviously. The moment I sat down, I thought I was looking into a mirror.
Only their mother can tell them apart.
Well,
Twins, the new comedy from Ivan Reitman.
Julius. What? Are you allergic to something? You're all swelled up. You look like you're ready to explode. I love it when you hit people. Who are you?
Vincent's brother.
We're twins.
That's right.
Twins.
Twins!
Twins!
So much plot. So many ideas. So much happens in this movie. Hi, I'm Chrissy Lenz, Director of National Comedy Theater, and with us as always...
Hi there, this is Nathan Blackwell with just a touch of a throat illness, apparently. Apologies.
Okay, and so we watched Twins.
Mm-hmm. It's been a while.
I've been a while. Yes.
This was one of those movies that I'm sure I caught on TV.
Yeah.
Or was a default rental. One of those movies where you've watched it 4 to 10 times in a period of 5 years, and just haven't revisited in 15 years.
Yeah, it's one of those things where you're like, I know from Twins. I've seen it. I'm pretty sure we saw it in the movie theater, and it was what? Arnold Schwarzenegger and Danny DeVito are twins. Well, we've got to see this movie.
So I think this was the distinction where so there's that point in your life to where you just see stuff that your parents show you or that you pick for rentals and things like that. And then you get the certain age a little later as like 14, 15 that you are able to go out to movies on your own.
Right.
Like I remember seeing Kindergarten Cop because I wanted to see it, and then I went to the theater.
Yeah.
But Twins, it had to be like a rental that it filtered through that approval process.
Yeah. Which I find so odd. Like one of the things when we're looking back at these movies that we know we saw when we were kids.
Yeah.
There's so much, I feel like, gross sex stuff that you couldn't get away with these days. Mm-hmm. Like, can you imagine the Avengers movies constantly referring
with Kelly Preston?
Yeah. with very young Kelly Preston. But, if they were constantly referring to like sperm milkshakes, I think there would be an uproar. Uh-huh. Mm-hmm. I did so.
And then what was this? PG-13?
PG. They're like, show this to everybody. Yeah, and just a lot of the subject matter is so risque. Like we couldn't get away with that in the improv show.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting visiting movies that are now what at this point 22 years old.
I don't know how time works. Yeah.
and then remembering
88, so 30.
Having
31.
31?
Yeah.
No, because okay, technically yes.
Yes.
Only technically. Only if you use math. Okay, so 32 years ago.
Yeah.
Remembering the viewing when you saw it before. Hey, dog. And then revisiting it after a lot of time has gone by. Like, I remember everything that happens in Twins.
Yeah.
Even though it had been so long that you're kind of like seeing it again. Mm-hmm. And that's kind of a reoccurring thing in these. It's not like it was 10 years ago. It's like now these movies are like 30 years old. Gurg. And then you remember being there. Mm-hmm. It's interesting to not only see what's the difference between what is a movie, what is acceptable, what is the temperature of what the audience wants to see, but also just like, like you see an 80s movie and you go, it's like, that's an 80s movie.
Oh, yeah.
And I think it's one part fashion, but it's also a huge part, like literally just the technology.
Tone.
Well,
okay.
Yeah, the tone, yeah. But also like the technology. Like you can immediately tell that it's an 80s movie, and you can, now that we've seen so many of these 80s movies like revisited, like you can definitely tell it's like early 80s, mid 80s, or late 80s. And I can't tell the difference between like a 2020 versus a 2015 film. Like there's not that hindsight, but now you can revisit these movies and you can just tell like what were the popular, like I think we are instinctively able to tell like what is the difference between the film stocks and the types of cameras that they're using, the types of lighting design and like light technology and like production design. What were all the stuff there in addition to the fashion? Because I mean, even when it just shows like very normal stuff, you can kind of tell and place that where that film is in like a zone of like 3 to 4 years, which is kind of weird.
This movie definitely felt, very late 80s and almost 90s with their choice of like that red convertible and their suits that they eventually put on.
We're just kind of peeking out. Like in my mind, I always think of Twins as an early 90s movie.
Yeah.
And then as soon as this movie starts, I go like, whoa, this is so 80s.
So 80s. Well, and it's also like 80s in its plot choices. So, like I don't really notice like the film stock and like the angles and stuff, but I do notice the plot. Yeah.
But you can also just kind of sense like the feel and the look.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Okay, so the general outline of this movie is that Arnold Schwarzenegger is the result of a genetic experiment, which this whole movie treats like it's just okay. Don't you worry about the eugenics that are happening. Don't even worry about it. Also, they say that he has 6 fathers and 1 mother, but that's not how babies work. And they keep trying to imply like, no, they made a milkshake. Like they took everybody's.
No, they mixed it around.
But that's still not how it works.
Yeah.
That's still not how it works. They made Arnold Schwarzenegger, and lo and behold, even though they could control every other aspect of this, they couldn't find a way to stop it from splitting the egg and having there be an Arnold and a Danny DeVito.
Nature finds a way.
It does. This is the Jurassic Park proto.
This is as close as we're going to get to Jurassic Park in the 80s.
In the 80s.
A 1993 film. Damn it.
Dang. So close. Steven Spielberg saw this and was like, wait a minute.
Yeah, Danny DeVito was supposed to be Sala in Raiders Lost Ark. No joke.
Really?
Uh-huh.
I don't know.
Well, you get
If
to
that
see
would've-
him, and then you get to see him basically playing that same role
In-
Romancing the Stone.
Exactly.
But I mean, like, Danny DeVito plays Danny DeVito. He doesn't, like, transform himself into another character. It's interesting when you think of, like, actors versus movie stars. You know,
Right.
It's like an actor, and, you know, and this is a very broad generalization, but an actor transforms themselves into someone else, and a movie star turns someone else into them.
That's exactly right.
Like Christopher Walken or William Shatner, you know, and surprisingly, I feel like in this movie, Arnold Schwarzenegger is much more of a transforming himself into someone else. Like,
Yeah.
he obviously looks and sounds, and will always look and sound like Arnold Schwarzenegger, you know.
Right.
Yeah, but he is a very different character than I've ever seen him. And at this point, he's done like Commando and like you know, Red Heat, and he is taking a hard left turn, and he is 100% in on doing comedy. Like,
Yes.
no one wanted him to do comedy except him, and I think he does it
He's
great.
like, no, I'm very funny. You're gonna love this. Like, wait and see what happens.
And genuinely,
if I pretend to be someone who's a little bit naive.
he is extremely charming in this movie.
He is. Yes, and I like this. So the idea is that he's been raised on an island by the one nice scientist in this
The one
terrible
nice
torture.
Nazi.
Yeah, like he's basically being Truman showed. Like he has never met other people.
Right. Right. And then it's like, it's all kind of from his perspective, and he's so incredibly nice. He's so incredibly trusting. He's like a giant kid.
And he doesn't know how to do anything.
Right. But I mean, I wonder if like the real story is that the nice guy, that they're secretly like on an Argentinian island escaping like Nazi persecution.
Yeah.
You know, from the eugenics.
Yeah, nobody is pointing a finger at like how vicious this whole plot of the movie is. So essentially these scientists were like, okay, keep that baby. Even though they're babies, you can't tell like that one of them is going to turn into Arnold Schwarzenegger and the other one's going to turn into Danny DeVito when they're infants.
Right.
But they are like, get rid of that other one.
Flush.
Send it to Los Angeles. And never tell anybody. Even the nice scientist waits till Arnold Schwarzenegger is 35 to be like, BT dubs, you've got a brother. And he's like, great, cool beans, I'm going to go to LA. And everyone's just like, yeah, okay, bye. What the fuck? And it's like you said about movie stars. It was just like, you know what would be hilarious? Let's make a movie with these two bankable stars. But they're brothers. And someone was like, that's insane. How are you going to justify that?
That's the urban legend that the entire pitch for this movie was Arnold Schwarzenegger, Danny DeVito are twins.
Yeah.
And then it was sold. Like,
you
literally.
figure it out,
Yeah,
writer.
exactly.
That's your problem. We'll just do some light Nazi stuff. No one will notice. And then, but so they lie to everybody. They tell the mom that both the babies died. They tell Danny DeVito that his mom is still alive. Like, there's a lot of confusion. There's so much plot in this movie. This movie is like...
Well, it kind of needs it because there's...
Because that's it. You can't just be like, oh, look at that. They're twins. And you know what's fun? Is they don't look alike.
Yeah.
They don't resemble each other, but they're twins. You see one of them is really tall and muscular, and the other one is very small in stature. Isn't that hilarious? No, you're saying that's not enough?
It turns out to be pretty good.
Yeah, it is good. So of course, Danny DeVito, meanwhile, has been like out in the world. He's kind of that character he plays sometimes, which is kind of a sleaze, kind of a scummy manipulator. He's a car thief who's in gambling debt.
And he's got an office where he's like an agent, a sports agent, a manager, a consultant.
And he's got a secretary.
Yeah, there's like 12 things on the list, which I thought was funny.
Yeah. Anyway. So they find each other. Danny DeVito wants nothing to do with Arnold Schwarzenegger except to like use him and manipulate him.
Right. So we've got here a movie. Not only are they physically different, but this is kind of the odd couple of like one character is it's a fish out of water story, but it's also kind of the odd couple of like the naive, super nice, sheltered kid versus the street smart, like the cynical versus big hearted. You know, you need something for there to be growth and then fun and contrast.
Yeah. So the fun they have with Arnold Schwarzenegger's character, he learns to drive by reading the manual, which is terrific. I love
the
that
speed
part.
reading.
And then the gross part is that like he's a virgin, and Danny DeVito is so psyched for him to get laid. It's gross. He makes up a whole song about how his brother's going to have sex.
Tonight is your night, bro. It's your night, bro.
Yeah, what? Stop it. Leave him alone. And then Kelly Preston's just kind of like, oh, well, I guess then I have to...
No, she's not if-anding her butt. She looks at him like a big slab of beef, and she is hungry.
Guys, the 80s are weird. This movie is rated PG. And there's, like, straight-up sex scene in it.
Well, it's implied. It's the pre-coital warm-up.
She's in a nightie. And he's like, well, I sleep on the floor. And she's like, okay, well, I'm going to come down there, too. And he's like, hey, that's okay.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah. Well, I like it that the woman is like,
let's do this.
And you're not getting any of the hints.
Yep. And he's not getting any of the hints. I'm just looking up where this is on his
I remember
timeline.
being like a 13-year-old boy, being very interested in these scenes.
Yes, I bet. No, I bet you were. Like, that seems to be what they're there for.
Yeah.
Okay, so on top of all of this, they decide to go on a search for their mom, which takes a lot of convincing, and they do, like, Arnold Schwarzenegger sort of gets through to Danny DeVito, and he's like, but we're brothers. Like, let's be brothers. Let's hang out. Let's be part of each other's lives. Like, he sort of offers him unconditional love.
Yeah.
In a really sweet way. He's like...
Arnold is just so jazzed. There's no bullshit. And then Danny DeVito is all bullshit and trying to work an angle. He doesn't want attachment, you know. So basically, Danny DeVito and Arnold are also with two other sisters, which is his girlfriend and then Kelly Preston.
His girlfriend, who I will look up the actress's name, but she plays Nancy instead of Nancy. The Sirius Black one. What's the actor who's Sirius Black? His name is Gary Oldman.
Gary Oldman.
Yeah. She's Nancy instead of Nancy, and so I can't ever see anything else when I look at that actress. But she's very good in this movie, she loves him. Yeah. She offers him unconditional love, and he's just like not having it.
Yeah.
Which is a bummer because she just loves him. Like, her eyes light up when she sees him. She gives him like little smoochies all the time. Like, she is in love with him, but he like can't handle it.
Yeah, so you know, so this is like a what they call a two-hander. So it's like two leads. But in a lot of ways the growth is really Danny DeVito, you know.
Yeah.
Now, Arnold does have some growth as a character. Like, he learns a lot of slang, and he just kind of like learns a little more of how the world works, how women work, those kind of things. But but it's really more Danny DeVito who's going through this transformation, you know.
Chloe Webb is the actress. I always just call her Nancy. And he learns to love. So they decide they're going to go find mom because she maybe is alive. And on the way, they also find some of their 6 dads. Oh, I have something to say about the dads. Can I real quick circle back to that? So they show us this whole beginning where they're like, we chose
6 genetically superior men
who are only intellectually superior. Like, they're all smart. They're all gross old men.
It's like, who chose these genetically superior men? These men.
These men. Yeah, these men are like...
The nerds chose the best nerds.
But there's not a one of them that is physically... I mean, Heather Graham is beautiful. Yeah. And she's the mom.
Yeah,
but a
baby Heather Graham in the beginning.
Not even one of them is buff. None of them is strong. None of them it looks physically... Well, how did they make Arnold Schwarzenegger?
Well, lots of exercise and watching your diet.
But even, like, none of them was even tall.
Like, Arnold Schwarzenegger's real dad did not look like Arnold Schwarzenegger, by the way.
No, fine.
But the dad that he did meet was the same height as him. The dad that he...
They're like, you look exactly alike. No, they don't.
Correct. But the dad that he did meet was the same height. No,
Nathan.
No, he was. First of all, Arnold Schwarzenegger is not a towering giant. He's like 6'1", 6'2".
So you're saying that all of these smart nerds got together and made a baby, and it just decided to do push-ups? That's your theory?
Yes. I don't think anyone is genetically predisposed to look like a bodybuilder.
What? Of course they are. Nathan.
That's not how it works. You have to exercise.
You do have to exercise.
He has a bodybuilder body. He doesn't have a strong dude. He doesn't have a dad body. He doesn't have a strong dude body.
But he
literally is a bodybuilder.
But you have to do exercise, yes. But some people, even if they could do all the same amount of exercise and their bodies would not become that shape.
To be fair, we're judging these men who are now in their 50s and 60s.
They were in their 50s and 60s then.
Only because they were put in makeup and then they had to look like that.
Oh, Jesus. All right.
Takes a lot of work to look like that.
It does take a lot of work, yes, but you also have to have the genetic capability.
So you would have been happy if there was like some super like ripped dude.
One ripped hot dude. Yes, one ripped hot dude where they were like...
Who tears off his lab coat.
Yes. I wanted there to be...
Lou Ferrigno.
4 smart guys or 5 smart guys and one where they're just like, oh no, we got Brad Pitt on the case because this dude's hot. Like we need to be hot as well, so we're gonna put some hot.
We gotta put that in the milkshake.
Yeah, exactly.
Just the cherry on top.
We need to put some hot sauce in the milkshake. We do. That like bothered me seriously. So they go try and find their dad. Meanwhile, one of the reasons that Danny DeVito agrees is because he steals a car with
a MacGuffin in it.
With some plot in the back.
There is a device, a plot device in the back.
Yes.
Yeah, the 80s was rife with like the experimental engine, the experimental.
Oh, but you don't even learn that that's what it is until the end. Like I assumed it was drugs.
No, you saw he opened up the thing when Danny DeVito first opened up, and it looked.
I must have been looking at my phone.
Yeah, well, it looked like we saw it earlier.
Pieces and parts.
No, it looked like something that was taken out of a car or out of a jet.
Oh, okay. And Danny DeVito realizes based on a cassette tape of instructions.
I think it would have been better if it was like a revolutionary computer hard drive that can hold like 10 megabytes.
Yes. If it was the templates. Bring me the templates. So he's going to try and deliver it. Meanwhile, there's the guy who's supposed to deliver it is just murdering people all over the city.
Yeah. You saw my face.
And now I'll kill you.
And he kills everyone except like the other plot device bad guys.
Right.
He totally lets them go. Like he shoots them in the legs and the feet.
And he's like, go find them. So those
loan sharks.
Those are the loan sharks. They're looking for Danny DeVito. He needs $20,000 in order to pay off that loan.
Right.
Meanwhile, he also has the engine in the trunk of the stolen car that he's being pursued by the guy who kills everyone.
Yeah, you always have these problems where the movie is all based about something that is just more of it's less of an engine for conflict and more just kind of a premise of like, if we put this together and this together. So a lot of these movies have like, oh, but we also need like killers who are after them as they're on the road. You know, we've got to, because there's just not enough steam.
Arnold Schwarzenegger needs to beat someone up. We can't have a whole movie where he doesn't do that.
Right.
And
this is like Adventures in Babysitting.
It is.
There's not enough movie for them just to get lost in the city. There's got to be a drug subplot.
Yeah, and I just picture a writer's room where like exasperated people are like, "Oh God, are you serious? We need 20 more minutes." Okay, great. All right. Okay. The mom pretends not to know them. How about that?
Right.
How about that?
Graduation is in 6 hours,
Yes.
and then
we gotta get this. Yeah, it must have been so stressful just to be like, we gotta think of another thing. But I do love that whenever Arnold Schwarzenegger is going to beat someone up, he does this whole thing where he's like, the first rule is you must negotiate, and he's telling them the rules of negotiation. And it's very funny.
Pavement was his enemy.
Yes, that is a funny line.
Yeah.
And the other funny line is when he's like, oh shit, you said the pavement thing, that made me forget it. What's the thing he says? Like, you are the enemy of logic, and anyone who's the enemy of logic is the enemy of me.
That's great.
Pretty great.
Nerd fury.
Yay!
Nerd rage.
What if all nerds look like Arnold Schwarzenegger? They go try and find the mom, and the mom pretends not to be the mom and tells them that the mom's dead.
Because you think they're developers. They're
Yeah. And she thinks that her kids died.
dead.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That her experimental eugenics babies
Too soon,
died.
guys.
Yeah, seriously. And also the name of the guy who's trying to get the engine is named Beetroot McKinley. Mm-hmm. What is that?
Is he? And he's the dad from Raising Arizona, isn't he?
Is he?
Yeah, isn't he?
If you say so.
I think so.
Beetroot McKinley. There's an I'll Be Back too.
Yeah. Is this the beginning of the I'll Be Backs, or is this this is the second or third I'll Be Backs after? Because there's just a reoccurring thing of him saying it in all his movies
In
after
all
the
of
Terminator.
his movies. And
No, I'm sure that he's used it. So Terminator, Red Sonja, Commando, Raw Deal, Predator, Running Man. No, he said it in Running Man.
he says it in Running Man.
Yeah, Red
100%.
Heat, then Twins. Yeah, at that point, it's like, how many times
he's
can
got
we
to do
get
it?
Yeah.
Which is not even that thrilling of a line. It's not. But it's still like to this day. So whenever we ask people for like in the improv show, it'd be like, "What's your favorite quote from a movie?" That never goes away. I'll Be Back never goes away. So all of this happens, and it's like a road movie. It's a fish out of water movie. It's a heist. It's a chase. This movie has it all.
Yeah.
It literally does. Including so the mom has a foundation, but they don't know that's the mom.
Right.
So they get the money, so they survive everything. They get Beetroot McKinley his engine, but they also double cross him, and he gets arrested, right? Because Arnold Schwarzenegger has to do the right thing.
Right. So what happens is that the assassin who's supposed to be driving the car, he's so evil that he's just going to kill the guys because they've seen his face.
You've seen my face.
He has faceophobia.
And whenever he gets a facial at the spa, he has to murder a lot of people.
So if the story is about Danny DeVito like making human connections, our villain is the ultimate person who is unable to make human connections.
Yeah. Aw, that's so deep, Nathan.
Thank you, Ivan Reitman. Yeah, we haven't mentioned that. So this is directed by Ivan Reitman of Ghostbusters,
and you can tell, because it is a good movie and B, a funny movie,
right?
Like, and you can tell that somebody stuck their fingers in this pie and made it work,
right? Because this movie, in lesser hands, would be so stretched thin,
so bad,
and so he's able to make it continuously charming.
Yeah. And you know what this movie should have been? Like, if we were going to make it today, it would be a series. It would be like a limited series on Netflix or something, like 6 episodes where they just have adventures. And it's like, let's take these two twins and put them in, like Bill and Ted type situations where they're just like having adventures. Yeah. And I would show up for that. I would watch that. I would still watch it. If
Yeah,
Arnold Schwarzenegger and Danny DeVito wanted to do a limited series on Netflix today that's just twins, I would watch that. In fact, please make that happen.
All right.
Okay. Thank you, Nathan.
Me?
Yeah, you.
Oof.
You're the filmmaker.
Okay, hang on.
Make some calls.
All right. So it's stretching it to say that I've met Arnold Schwarzenegger, but
Okay.
he's been right behind me.
Oh.
So I was at a cigar bar in
Fancy.
where was that? Anyways, Santa
Did you
Monica.
have to go there because you're a filmmaker? You're
Yes.
Like, well, I need my cigar.
Right, yeah. Oh, it's been 3 years. I've got to
Gotta go.
So I was in Santa Monica, and I heard him come in right behind me, and he must have been picking up some cigars. Mm-hmm. And obviously he sounds only like him. And I was trying to play it cool, and I wasn't going to turn around. But as soon as I felt like the moment was right, he was gone. so I heard him. So he was behind me. And so now, by proxy, I am now famous, of course.
Of course.
Thank you.
Yeah. I mean, I if only I had known that story earlier, we would be much better friends. Yeah. So everything happens, but still, Danny DeVito lies and keeps $1 million.
Yeah.
But they also got a reward.
Correct. $50,000.
But he's kept $1 million.
Yeah. And that was cute.
Yeah, it was cute.
Yeah.
Because they use it to do nice things.
Right.
Right? And they hired the secretary, and they have a little foundation, right?
Yeah.
And what were they doing?
They were a consultant group.
Okay.
I think.
So nothing.
Yeah.
Specifically. No one could think of anything.
Right.
They were like, what are they doing? And everyone in the writer's room was like, look, we don't know.
It's street smarts and book smarts.
Yes.
Together.
And then they find their mom, and they have their girlfriends, and it's like, it's nice.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's nice.
It's such a charming...
The only thing that's missing is they should have arrested those Nazis.
Rounded them all up at the end.
Yes.
Doors kicking down, machine guns.
Wouldn't you, like a post-credit scene
Yeah.
where they just like lock up those weirdos. Even the nice guy who ran the island, like, what you're doing is not nice. Like, this person is your prisoner and your experiment. Not cool. Mm-hmm. Oh, and also, like, so weird to believe that he had an Austrian accent because the main scientist on the island was Austrian.
Right.
I like that.
Yeah, because it's never done in
No one
any
ever
of his
tries
other
to
fucking
explain it,
movies.
Yeah. No one's ever tried to explain why he's Austrian.
It's like, you know, his name is always like Richard Dawson or something like that. You know, it's like, let's go down. I'm gonna go down the list of
His character names.
We're going back.
I love it.
So obviously, Red Heat is okay. So.
Also, I'm looking at a lot of Arnold Schwarzenegger movie posters, and almost all of them are just his face.
Yeah.
Like,
so Commando, John Matrix, Raw Deal, he plays two characters, Mark Kaminsky and Joseph Brenner. In Predator, he's Dutch. That's okay. That could be a nickname. Mm-hmm. Running Man, he's Ben Richards. Mm-hmm. Red Heat, Ivan Danko. Twins, Julius Benedict. Okay, named after his mom. Mm-hmm. And Total Recall, he's Quaid, and then Kindergarten Cop, he's Kimball.
Yeah.
I think with some of these one names, Dutch, Quaid, and Kimball, they're able to just like, okay, you might have an impronounceable German last name. We don't need to use that.
Don't care.
People just call him Quaid.
Yes, just call him.
Come on.
Nobody's ever going to ask a question about the Austrian accent on this guy.
Yeah.
But I liked it. I like that they were like, this is the only movie ever. And they didn't say anything about it. It's just something that you could notice if you wanted to. But what if the hot dad was Austrian?
Yeah.
That's all I'm saying. Mm-hmm. Yeah, this is a cute movie. It is. Like, and I can't say fully that it holds up.
Yeah.
Because you can't have a PG movie where the one brother is singing a delightful song he made up about the other brother getting laid. You just can't. I mean, I don't want to think that we've grown more puritanical as time has gone by. I like to think we're very sex positive.
Right.
In the
I feel like as these movies go, in terms of how far it could have been pushed, this is, I guess, as really as innocent as sex positive as it could be in comparison to any of the teenage movies.
Okay.
You know? Like, any of the teenage movies is way more about getting horny.
Yes.
You know?
Getting laid. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, that was a whole genre in the 80s.
Yeah, where the man has this need to check something off a list.
Right.
You know? And in this one, you know, he's kind of a shy, bashful kid, and the woman's like, come on, you don't like me? What's going on here?
We're going to Pound Town, whether you like it or not.
Exactly.
Yeah, but I think you're right. If you look at it from that point of view, which is like, no, we made dozens of movies in the 80s just about
if anything, like the sex rom-com teenage movies is like gauged towards like, you know, horny 16-year-olds.
Yeah, and
like,
that didn't go away.
Like,
we had American Pie.
Like
and
this is dialed down to like 12, 13, you know, like pre-pubescence, just pubescence, afraid of expressing, you know.
Don't know what to do. Yeah. Okay. Okay, so I wanted to read you some of the...
Wait, we passed up. So there's many firsts for Arnold in this movie.
Tell me about it.
But Julius's Arnold, his first murder caused a lot less stress and strain than the whole process of getting laid. It was a nice murder. Like, it was a really funny one. Like, they dropped these chains on the bad guy, and it just keeps going until, like, there's literally a 20-foot tall pile of chains.
Yeah.
And they say, that's a lot of chains.
Yeah.
Like
well, and that was out of keeping with the entire rest of the movie.
But then
that
they
was
just
straight
go
up
back,
Naked Gun.
Yeah, they just go back to Smiles. And I think that's the only way they could do it, where you felt okay about these two characters killing someone in self-defense.
Yeah.
But I mean, literally the next shot is them kind of smiling.
Yeah. It's like Acme chain, right?
Yeah.
You're supposed to
he's
forget
such a broad
that there's a
bad
human
guy.
under it.
Yeah, he's such a broad bad guy. The death is so broad.
And he kills people too. So
And that's just the kind of tightrope you have to walk. If like, well, you know, that I'm sure, you know, Ivan Reitman brought to this of just having to dial down and walk a tightrope.
Yeah.
This kind of stuff, you know?
Yeah, because I mean, I think there's like, you could have done a dark, gritty version of this, but nobody wants that. Okay, so looking it up, Googling twins, trying to just find something fun, and the most fun thing I found were the Google audience reviews. So, not to straight up copy how did this get made, who reads Amazon reviews.
Yeah, which is a great.
If you're not listening to that podcast, listen to it. But I read them and I was like, I have to share it. I have to. The very first one is a 5-star review, and it says, I'm doing some research on twins, and while this is the movie Twins, and completely fiction, as far as I know anyway, there is always some truth to be gleaned from fiction, and I'm also looking into some true stories about twins. And there are some crazy true stories about twins. What? Tracy, like, are you okay? Like, that's what she, like, this isn't real. But just so you know, I am doing research about twins. And then the rest of it is, like, just straight up the worst spelling I've ever seen in my life. But yeah, that one just struck me. I'm doing research on twins. This is a movie, and it's not accurate. Yes, there is no science in this movie whatsoever.
There's lots of science. There's no accuracy in this movie.
Yes. All right. So
yeah, it's interesting. So just kind of rounding back to when, like, the development of your own brain and like social norms and things like that. This was like the first,
like, nature versus nurture.
Yeah, that's ultimately kind of what the movie's about.
But it's saying both things are true.
Yeah.
Nature and nurture. Like, Danny DeVito is that way because he took all the bad genetics.
Well, it's that D-bag doctor said that.
Yeah.
Again, it could be a unreliable narrator or unreliable character. Like, he's just, you know, who's to say that if their situations were reversed, that, you know, things would have been different. But yeah, so this was like the first time I thought of what Danny DeVito talks about is like the orphan fantasy.
Yeah.
You know, of every orphan wants to hear that their parents were secretly special and they really loved them and they weren't just abandoned.
Yeah.
You know, and
that moment when he sort of gets told off by the doctor who decided when he was a baby that he was destined for prison. Like, that's a genuinely sad moment.
Yeah.
Because they're like, I mean, even the acting in this movie is kind of good.
Yeah. There is a weird part where they start to feel each other's pain and sense things, like the Corsican brothers. Mm-hmm. That was the one point I felt this movie jumped it. You know?
Yeah. That was weird.
Yeah.
And it didn't make any sense. That's how he finds him in the like factory or whatever.
That's what happens when you put deleted scenes in the actual movie.
The writers were tired. They were like, "Look, I can't give you any more than this." Mm-hmm. Yes, they have some weird twin connection. So what do you think of like? I think they. Could you remake this? I think you just do it again with Arnold and Danny.
Yeah. Well, so this movie couldn't have been made without Arnold and Danny.
Yeah, who would you have now? John Cena and...
You know, like, I mean...
I don't know.
Yeah, like John Cena or
and
like
Josh Gad?
Dwayne The Rock Johnson.
Oh, yeah.
You know, maybe you do like a Dwayne The Rock Johnson and Kevin Hart are twins. You know, and then you have like all the...
Oh my God, they're going to make that movie now. Because we just said it out loud. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And also that would be something else that we needed was like... If you added like an element of like they're being racially different, I don't know.
Yeah.
Oof. I would still watch a limited series of like the golden years of twins, like twins, the golden years. What are they up to now? What are they doing?
Yeah. Well, and so this movie was such a success that they decided to bring back the team and do Junior a couple of years later.
I've never seen Junior.
So it's like a spiritual sequel.
Okay.
To Twins, and I mean that.
Wait, is Danny DeVito in it?
Yeah. No, so it's Arnold and Danny, and then
is Kelly Preston in it?
No. This is the part where you edit out of the podcast as Nathan looks it up. Emma Thompson, duh.
Okay.
So Emma Thompson. So it's it's more genetic comedy.
Yeah.
You know, so Arnold.
It's more genetic comedy that could not happen.
Correct.
At all.
Arnold is pregnant.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of like how War of the Roses was kind of a spiritual, not sequel of Romancing the Stone, but reuniting the team.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Okay. So on a scale of 12 feet of chain to 120 feet of chain, we're just on a scale of 1 to 10. Mm-hmm. What would you
How many rules of conflict?
Yes. How many plots would you give Twins?
I'm gonna give it like a nice solid 7. I feel like 8 would be a little more outstanding, and it wasn't bad. It was just kind of like a solid, piece of entertainment, of light entertainment.
Okay. I think that that's probably the right number to give it. I mean, I would, if anything, I would bring it back towards the 6, like 6.5, because it's not amazing, but it's fun.
Yeah, and it's not that it's honestly like any of the dated aspects. There's really not too much that make it unwatchable,
right?
Right. Or make it that really give it like I'd say a knock against it.
I agree. But what it didn't have was that thing where you're like, oh my God, you've never seen Twins? Well, sit down right now. We've got to show it to the, that thing that would make it a thing that they show at Alamo Drafthouse.
Yeah. So exactly.
It didn't have that.
Yeah.
Okay. But it's good. It's like I would recommend that people watch it.
Yeah.
If you haven't seen it, like it's fun.
Yeah. Like a 7 is like a don't run out and revisit it. But that's totally fun.
Yeah. And it's not bad. Like I love when they're wearing matching suits. Like, that's a really cute scene. Like, you should see that.
There's
scene.
so many moments to where they're just being cute.
Mm-hmm.
You know, where they're trying to replicate each other's behavior, and it's just super innocent.
It is, and I really liked it.
Like the scene where they're eating, like, microwave Parmesan, and
he's
they're like,
I love this.
this is so yummy.
Yeah. Okay, so what would your deep cut recommendation for Twins been?
Right.
What? Why are you laughing?
Mine is so stupid.
Oh, mine is also terrible for this.
Okay,
movie.
so mine is this is just like this makes up then all of my twin references of the late 80s, early 90s, and so I'm going to recommend. And I haven't revisited it, so it's probably I think it was always terrible, but Double Impact, where Jean-Claude Van Damme plays his own twin.
I've never even heard of that.
So Jean-Claude Van Damme plays his own twin brother, and who he discovers him as an adult, as a 35-year-old adult.
Is he schlubby or is he also hot?
He's also hot, but he's a little more. It's like one of them has his hair slicked back, and the other one has normal hair, and like I think glasses, and they both apparently have the identical same physique.
Yeah,
but
that's what I'm telling you. It's at least a little bit.
But if you
bit genetics,
exactly. So if you're just looking for campy, over the top twin joke references, these are the only two movies you need to see for that period of time. What? There's two of them?
They should have done like a Parent Trap with that.
Yeah, honestly, you probably just watch the trailer and then you're fine.
And that's enough.
But yeah.
Okay, so. Yeah, like that was a good recommendation. I couldn't come up with anything that was like, like you say, this was spiritual cousin of it. So I just want to recommend, like, and I just want to recommend Danny DeVito, because this movie is so like bent on him being physically undesirable compared to Arnold Schwarzenegger, which I feel like isn't a thing that would be as appealing to audiences today. Of course, I don't know. But like Danny DeVito has been in so many super great movies and like responsible for so many super great movies. You should check a lot of his, you sort of almost can't go wrong if he's in something, like including The Rainmaker and LA Confidential and like all of these really good movies. Like you mentioned War of the Roses. That's a great movie. It's if you haven't seen that, see that. Like, it's crazy. Like, Get Shorty is really good. He does a lot of good work, and he's still out there making a lot of good work. So
yeah, man.
Big Fish, it's amazing.
Oh yeah. Tim Burton cameos.
And he's great. So that's my recommendation. If you see Danny DeVito, where can people find, and what do you want them to find?
I will leave behind a map. There are 3 keys to find the map. The first will be in a race that you must. Okay, Squishy Studios on the Instagram. Not on Facebook a ton these days, but the Squishy Studios Facebook is still up there. We've just been posting photos from our recent short film, Star Saga, which we did for a timed film challenge. And then, squishystudios.com is where our new stuff is going to show up.
Yay! So. Okay, and you can find me at National Comedy Theater, nctphoenix.com, NCT The Place. If you want me to do an improv scene for you, come and give me the suggestion, Twins. And we'll see what I can come up with. And please, we really appreciate you listening, but please, it's so cool if you would take a second and subscribe, rate, review, thumbs up, go on the Google thing and give me a review that's like, Twins, this is not real. Or whatever. It helps us out a lot. It helps us get found. It makes us feel good about ourselves. And send us a message on Instagram at Most Excellent Pod, or Facebook Most Excellent Pod, or on the website, mostexcellentpod.com. Anything else?
End scene. No, I think we're good.
Okay. All right. Well, then, thank you so much for listening. And when you're out there in the world, remember to keep the Most Excellent 80s Movies podcast motto in mind. Be excellent to each other and
party on, dudes.
The poor man gets his voice made fun of so much.